My topic is gun control. I'm Denise Brooks. For the introduction, I have a picture here of Shannon Watts, the founder of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. This group was merged with Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Gun control is a controversial issue in the United States, has been since the 1980s. In '81, almost fatally shot James Brady championed gun control legislation, getting the Brady Bill introduced into Congress in 1987. Initially, the bill was opposed by Congress members who questioned the constitutionality of regulating ownership of arms. The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The impact of law is questioned whether gun control regulation effectively reduces gun violence, or it doesn't. The National Rifle Association, NRA, manipulates its influence over Second Amendment gun rights supporters. The theory is that the NRA has enough power to implement or ignore legislation on behalf of its gun rights supporters. The research question is, are NRA gun advocates dominating the lobbying efforts of gun control advocates and issues? The hypothesis is that the NRA gun advocates population dominates the benefit of gun control legislation. Statement of the problem. This is a picture of supporters for gun rights outside of the National Shooting Sports Foundation in Newtown, Connecticut. You can almost see a picture, in the picture, a little sign about the NRA. There are an untold number of groups of gun rights supporters than there are those in favor of gun control. Advocating the possession and use of firearms, though, often causes devastating and irreversible damage. The NRA has a large membership of over 4 million people. Its influence on legislation, or in ignoring it, creates the friction between gun advocates and gun control advocates. It has the economic advantage for campaign donorship, which influences legislation because of the level of their political contributions. Many groups exist that support gun control and regulation, but a larger centralized group can demean these efforts. There are 53 reported gun control lobbying groups making political contributions, but their contribution is small compared to that of a political action committee or a PAC. Monetary figures mean influence. So the NRA has the endorsement of a PAC, the National Rifle Association Institute for Legislative Action. The number of people injured increases with the number able to use a firearm, but large gun rights groups like the NRA are not in favor of gun regulation. The increased injuries are evident in incidents of mass shootings, but the NRA is a powerful political entity. We'll look at the Columbine High School, the Washington Navy Yard, and Sandy Hook Elementary shootings. But the research will show that the NRA is a power player on legislation. The topic of gun control stirs more debate between groups favoring gun control and regulation and those opposing gun regulations or interference. Looking at cases of shooting incidents, the level of influence of the NRA on legislation, and cases of support from gun opposition groups, the study shows which advocacy group has stronger influence. Lobbying is a major contributing influence on Congress. Legislators depend on their constituents for policy making. They also depend on knowledge and expertise of lobbyists. Lobbyists and lobbying groups make political contributions on their behalf or behalf of their clients. Interpretation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution is currently that the right to keep and bear arms is viewed not only as the right to stock a militia, but as an individual right. The theory of power and influence is defined as persuasion based on authority and coercion. The theory aligns with the topic of gun control, and that the NRA could be the impetus to ending the debate over control and regulation of guns and establishing laws that will be enforced. This kind of support and power is able to influence legislation. The research will reflect how a gun rights group like the NRA influences legislation and stifles gun control. It employs a mixed methods approach with the use of narrative and comparative design and case description for a multiple case study. The methods will answer the research question, are NRA gun advocates dominating the lobbying efforts of gun control advocates and issues? It will seek to prove the influence of monetary contributions in campaigns and legislation with quantitative comparisons of both opposing groups. It describes cases involving the use of guns in incidents of violence, reviews cases of political contribution by gun control advocates and the NRA gun advocates. These are quotes that I took out of the textbook, Case Study Research, Designs and Methods by Robert Yin. Certain case studies can include substantial amounts of quantitative data if these data are subjected to statistical analysis at the same time. That qualitative data nevertheless remains central to the entire case study. You will have successfully followed a strong analytic strategy. In other situations, the original objective of the case study may not have been a descriptive one, but a descriptive approach may help to identify the appropriate causal links to be analyzed even quantitatively. I use these quotes in support of the choice of methods I used. Using quantitative and qualitative data, employing case descriptive identifiers, help point out similarities in the cases of violent shootings. In cases of the groups that make political contributions, attempting to persuade legislation, the methods will aid in comparison or discovering differences. The study will touch on the socioeconomic status of the NRA and 3 gun control groups, comparing the opposing groups' influence on legislation. Age is a variable in determining who has legal right to gun ownership. The research focuses on the last 30 years, with some reference made to additional information for theory support. Findings. On various separate occasions, incidents of violence with firearms and multiple shootings have occurred. The study focuses on the Columbine High School shooting, April 20th, 1999, the Washington Navy Yard shooting, September 16, 2013, and Sandy Hook Elementary shooting, December 14, 2013. All these shootings share a common choice of the gunman to use semi-automatic weapons. The NRA spoke out to support background checks of gun purchases only after the Columbine shooting. The top political gun control advocacy groups are Mayors Against Illegal Guns, Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, and the Sandy Hook Promise. The NRA is the largest contributor and has a client of donors for gun rights, with a total political contribution of $1,320,952 made for 2013 through 14. The Political Action Committee, or PAC, known as the National Rifle Association Institute for Legislative Action, spent $6,613,119 in 2014. Excuse me. Cut that, Nick. excuse me. The Mayors Against Illegal Guns made a political contribution of $310,000, cut it